This is a film about the spreading wastelands of the Western world, the wastelands of abundance. For centuries, the nature of the struggle for life on Earth has been a struggle for food and warmth and shelter. And for most people in Asia and Africa and South America, that's the nature of the struggle for life still. But for us in the industrialized Western world, that fight for survival has changed. It's no longer a fight to survive in a world in which there's too little, but a fight to survive in a world in which there is too much. We can now make more of practically everything than we can ever possibly hope to use. And to prosper, we must become a race of massive consumers, wasting to live. Today, all over the world, production is revered as the magic key to wealth and success. Every industrial nation is on the game, and the countries which have increased their production most are acclaimed as the ones to emulate. West Germany, Japan, and Italy are held out as shining examples. More and more and more. If only our factories can turn out more, we shall be rich, we shall be happy. If only our production can increase by 4% or 10% every year, all our troubles will be over. That is what the good life means, having more of everything. Every country is struggling to turn out more ships, more radios, more cars, more plastic condiment sets, more cine cameras, more electric shoe polishes, more bottled beer, more chocolate-flavored cornflakes than ever before. But in countries where production is God, what happens when the people have not only every manufactured thing that they really need, but everything that they really want? How then can the wheels of the nation's industries be kept spinning ever faster? What will the automated factories be producing then? And what in the name of human reason will they be producing for? We've made this film in the United States of America, where they have been grappling with this very problem for some years. There, where the pioneers once tilled the ground to the rhythm of the maxim, waste not, want not, the people have been taught both to want and to waste. Here, consumption has become holy. The big consumer has become the true brother, the faithful, the patriot. And year by year, more of the nation's effort is made to be thrown away. Not so long ago, the throwaway part of a shopping spree was confined to bottle tops and brown paper bags. Once a tradesman thought himself a bit wild, a bit of a showman, if he had his name printed on the wrapping paper. This is the wrapping business today. This photogravure press is in a medium-sized packaging manufacturers in the suburbs of Chicago. It will print in 7 colors on the outside face and on 1 color on the reverse face, and it costs $750,000. It turns out 1.5 million cartons a day, or about 15,000 pounds worth. Each of these 7 colors is electronically registered and checked on an optical scale, and the printing cost on a carton like this will be between 2p and 3p each. The machine will print 2 on aluminium foil, and then the cost goes up to 4p a wrapper for printing only. The factories of the American wrapping industry are equipped with hundreds of equally ingenious machines producing for the Dust Bowl, shaping, stamping, rolling, sealing, pressurizing, printing, trimming, and stacking. The American wrapping paper bill for 1 year amounts to 10,000 million pounds. Design of these packages has become a specialist business, undertaken by firms of experts who may charge up to several £1,000s for a new container. The games, puzzles, competitions, and special less-than-cost price offers are the results of extensive market research and design effort. This is just one, not very large, packaging firm amongst scores, and these are some of their containers. The tycoons of the wrapping industry would argue that all this material and effort was not being wasted, that after all, products have to be wrapped in something, and packages might just as well be attractive as not. But the fact remains that if packaging could be simply made, if cans and boxes could be designed for the simple job of containing the product, the savings would be enormous. This is a box for bird feed, thoroughly waterproof for hanging in trees, and the feed falls out into the flap automatically. The carton will stand up to the weather for weeks, though usually the seed only lasts a couple of days.
About a sixth of the seed stays in the bottom of the box, and yet this package won a prize for design. In the dazzling, impersonal world of the supermarket, where there is no fatherly grocer to ask about price or quality, the package is the only salesman. It is the wrapping and the advertising which must turn the faint-hearted buyer into a regular, repeating customer. It's the package which must persuade, intrigue, coax, charm, bully, or even frighten the citizen into buying. Usually, a new package is accompanied by a nationwide press and television campaign, plus some giveaway or special price offer on the supermarket floor. The right package will prevent the purchaser even sparing a thought about whether that stick of deodorant is really worth 9 shillings instead of only 9pence halfpenny. It can prevent him even noticing that he is paying as much for the 6 screws in the printed cellophane envelope as he would for the 3 dozen bought loose. It prevents him or her remarking that the salt in the throwaway container costs 17 times as much as salt sold by weight, or that the oil in the attractive dispenser is costing 20 times what it would if he bought it by the quart. The packaging men will say that the customer is prepared to pay for convenience, and indeed the customer proves it. Use it once and throw it away has become one of the best sales slogans in the market. You can buy throwaway cups, throwaway knives, throwaway saucepans, throwaway razors, throwaway baking tins, throwaway flour sifters, throwaway mousetraps. Sometimes a new package causes a revolution in an industry. Every big brewery in America is being forced over to this kind of aluminium-topped, rip-open can. It's expensive, of course, but handy. The average American family now pays over £3, 10 shillings every week for packaging materials alone. But to consume the consumable is not enough. He must be persuaded to throw away the things which he used to think he had bought once and forever. He must consume and replace hi-fi sound systems, dishwashing machines, refrigerators, power-driven lawnmowers, air conditioners, electric razors, kitchen stoves, swimming pools, and central heating apparatus. For when such luxuries have become standard fittings in most of the homes in the nation, the only way the factories can stay alive is for the people somehow to be convinced that the apparatus they have, even if they bought it only 12 months ago, is out of date, inefficient, and ugly. They must throw it away and trade it in for a new one. This is the plant of the Westinghouse Corporation at Columbus, Ohio, part of an organization that employs 100,000 people and sells 200 million pounds worth of electrical appliances each year. They must keep selling. Every few months, the advertising men will proclaim that this model is new, and the stylist will work out some kind of exterior that they feel really looks new. Westinghouse have just appointed a new styling director, Mr. Grazer.
Mr. Grazer, in the electrical appliance industry these days, you are faced with a saturated market. Most people have their refrigerators and their washing machines, and you have to sell them another one. How do you go about that?
Fundamentally, we use product improvement through product innovation, new features, for example, larger capacities in some appliances, and these then must be coupled with an appearance that reflects these technological advances.
Now, some of the accusations made against stylists is that they changed the style when really there's been no improvement made inside the thing.
Well, as I said, this idea of reflecting technological advances, some of these advances are very, very, difficult to see in a product. I mean, they may be internal units, they may be inside the wall, for example, or part of the mechanism, and the industrial designer's job is to reflect this in its appearance.
How would you do that in something that was intrinsically internal? You couldn't see it outside. How would you show that there had been a change made on the outside, on, say, a refrigerator?
Well, one of the things that you would do, of course, is to make it the most contemporary design. I mean, if we could design a product today that would look like 1967, I don't know how this is possible, we would do that today, just to make it look the most modern. And there are trends in design, and there are trends in color, for example, in appliances. These things can be reflected to show that this thing is modern and is up to date.
Now, some of the changes do seem sometimes rather fatuous. The streamlining of refrigerators, for instance, which they were all streamlined at the beginning, weren't they?
That's right. Well, there are several reasons for that, and one reason is that the homemaker, the family, was very proud of the refrigerator, and they wanted to show it off. It was a question of making it stand out and shout, that I have a refrigerator. Today, with the saturated market and with trends in architecture, these things are more recessive. They're built in. They're architectural, and they're rectilinear in shape. And it's with the fact that so many people have refrigerators, it's not necessary for them to show this off.
Do you see it becoming necessary to have an annual model change in the appliance business as they do in the car business, for instance? And would you welcome it if such a change did come about?
Not for the same reasons. I think the opportunity, for example, to update a product and to incorporate product improvement would be helpful in that there certainly are improvements in even costs, and we could lower the costs by changing a model occasionally. Now, whether it has to be an annual model change, and when I say technological improvements, I also mean cost improvements. I mean, appliances are a very good value today compared to 20 years ago, for example. You get a far more reliable, larger capacity, more features for even less money than you did 20 years ago.
Would you say durability has suffered through fashion in the appliance industry?
On the contrary, I feel that the let's say technological know-how in manufacturing and the sophistication of the industry has made it possible to increase the complexity of these devices and still maintain very, very high durability, reliability rather.
Would you say
and reliability?
Fine. Would you say the durability is high enough? The repair bills on many electrical appliances these days are very high.
Yes, well, this is a little bit out of my field in as far as our contribution to it as industrial designers. I don't feel that we have caused any problem as far as durability. The mechanisms are very complex, as I said, and I feel that they have a high degree of reliability, and the preventive maintenance on appliances, for example, is very, very low. In other words, you don't do anything until they break down.
So the factories go on selling, and for every machine sold, another ends up here in the scrapyard. This sort of scenery is growing fast around and in every larger community. In spite of the charges that they are contrary to the American way of life and communist-inspired, organizations to guide the poor consumer through the blinding razzle-dazzle of advertising are thriving. The biggest and the best of them is the Consumers Union of New York, whose consumer reports now have sales of nearly 1 million copies per issue. They test market products in the same way as British consumer magazines, but their own engineers, 35 of them, do all their testing in their own laboratories. They built their own constant temperature room, a soundproof laboratory for testing radio and recording equipment, and on their £1.5 million a year income, they make no profit. They jealously guard their independence of the commercial world, buy all of their products at retail prices through consumer agents all over America, and resolutely sue any manufacturer who tries to use their ratings in his advertising. Some of their findings have shaken the American consumer, who is so prone to the conviction that the American product is not only the biggest, but the best. In fact, the constant scrapping of models and factory retooling doesn't seem to have done the quality of the product that much good. Only one television set out of 17 tested could be given a top rating. Only 3 out of 22 toasters tested by the same organization could be recommended as high in quality. 31 of 44 powered rotary lawnmowers were condemned as excessively hazardous. 2/3 of all the safety belts it tested gave way. American householders complain they are having to buy new washing machines every 3 years. They need a new vacuum cleaner every other year, that even their cooking ranges are only lasting 7 years. This is one of the Consumers Union's technical directors, Monte Florman.
What about the repair bills? Do they go up greatly when you have frequent changes of model?
Repair bills can indeed go up, and for a couple of reasons. One is that every time there is a model change that incorporates something slightly more than a styling change, perhaps a different kind of a timer or perhaps a different kind of a thermostat, which does not entail a functional change, but merely perhaps what is in the mind of the manufacturer, an improvement, every serviceman who services that appliance must learn the ins and outs of handling this new part. Every distributor must stock in his inventory all the new parts for the new appliance, so that conceivably, at the end of 5 years of annual changes, even for so simple an appliance as a steam iron, the overhead and inventory for a distributor can be phenomenal, and the change sheets, as they are called, that is, the instructions for servicing the 1965 model as opposed to the 1964 model, accumulate in someone's desk drawer, and the serviceman doesn't really know how to fix it. And therefore, there are a number of callbacks. These are repeats for the same trouble that was not corrected on the first servicing. Now, I've used irons as an example, but perhaps the most serious of all of the servicing problems in appliances are automatic washing machines, where it is a rarity for a machine to go beyond the first year without requiring at least some service.
There's even been a drive to get the people to treat their homes as fashion items too, objects to be changed often and preferably for this year's model. The building trade refers to all homes that have been lived in as used homes, and has succeeded in making many Americans feel much the same about living in someone else's old home as they would about wearing his cast-off suit. And that applies to apartment and office blocks too. In many cities you find one rectangular skyscraper being torn down to make way for another fundamentally the same. So from paper plates to company headquarters, the urge is to throw things away. The present-day American is stuck with his own mess, and the trade which has grown faster than any other since the beginning of the post-war affluence is this one, the trash business. This pit is in the city of Detroit. It's 20 feet wide, 10 feet deep, and is never empty. Detroit is very proud of the fact that over the past few years they've actually managed to cut the costs of getting rid of their garbage. They've saved $4 million a year, but the cost is still over 17 million pounds, almost 20,000 pounds a day. And they've saved the money by actually throwing more away. Once they had 80 men working on this conveyor, salvaging the more valuable items, the metal and the glass. Now they throw it all into the pit. At 16 shillings an hour, a man couldn't save the worth of his own labor. The furnaces cost £750,000 each, and they consume 100 tons of garbage a day. 4 infernos like this in one city, and they are roaring day long, night long, in every city of the Union. This is where they end so soon. All those miles of curtains and clothing, those hundredweights of cartons and newspapers, those legions of unloved dolls and outgrown teddy bears, those acres of bright colors and bright ideas. They end here. All those hundreds of millions of man-hours, all those millions of tons of fabric and food, of paint and paper. They end in a gale of heat that reduces them all to the same fine gray grains, and in a thin rain driving against a wall of stainless steel. The ashes of our labor, sifted, washed, reduced to a pure and inconspicuous fragment of the bulk they were. But it's a bulk so large still that it begins to fill the nation. Only a part of the 2,800 truckloads of trash that are collected every day in this one city can be destroyed by burning. The rest, with the ashes, has to be dumped in landfills, which are getting always harder to find and always more expensive. This is the stuff that nobody wants in his backyard. Detroit rubbish trucks are now traveling 50 miles to dump, and compared with the problems that face New York, Chicago, or Los Angeles, Detroit is lucky.
But the industry which more than any other illustrates the wasteful gluttony of the modern manufacturing world is the motor car industry. The automobile industry is not just one more industry, and the car is not just another possession. It is the basis of the way of life. It is the foundation not only of the automobile industry of Detroit, but of the steel industry, the rubber industry, the construction industry, the hotel and motel industry, and the oil industry. Without a car in America these days, life becomes almost impossible to live. The big supermarkets and department stores are set far out in the suburbs. And the proliferation of the motor car is the proof that everything really is okay, that life really is rich.
The American car is huge not only in numbers, but in nature. Big in the body, big in the boot, big under the bonnet. The engines produce hundreds of horsepower, much of which is unneeded and never used, for speed limits are universal and strictly enforced. But the weight and power is good business for the tire companies, the steel companies, the battery companies, and particularly for the oil companies. The American car eats up petrol at the rate of about a gallon for every 14 miles. In 1962, they traveled 768,000 million miles and consumed 62,000 million gallons of fuel. For years, the big three, General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler, fought off the challenge of the small economical car. And it was the dogged persistence and eventual success of the German Volkswagen and one smaller American corporation, American Motors of Milwaukee, which forced them at last to enter the small car market. Now all of them make compacts, but they promote and sell them as the family's second car. On one of the new expressways in the car capital Detroit, one of the tire companies has erected a computer which blazons to the citizens of the car city each new birth in the massive maternity homes of the big three. It's the nearest thing you could find to a national heartbeat, and the Detroit pulse is beating more powerfully than ever before. Last year, every manufacturer recorded increases in sales. For most Americans, the success of their automobile manufacturers is proof enough of the rightness of the cars they make and the methods used to produce and market them. How can you decry the corporations which between them make over 7 million cars a year, which have supplied 77% of all American families with at least one car and 15.6% of them with at least two, which have given a nation with only 6% of the world's population nearly 60% of the world's cars, which make over half of all the cars and trucks made in the world, and roughly 6 times the number of cars made here in Britain. How can you have doubts about the system which is created or being created by General Motors, the greatest corporation the world has ever seen? General Motors alone produces over 3 times as many as all British manufacturers put together. The sales of this one company in 1962 were $14,640,241,000. Their sales were greater than the national budget of France. The net profits of this one company was roughly the same as the national income of Ireland. Their employees and their families outnumber the population of New Zealand. Of the 10 highest paid executives in the United States, 8 are General Motors men, and all of their executive committee earn around $500,000 a year, and some much more. This is the General Motors Technical Center, where the technicians working on future projects are housed as graciously as Arabian sheikhs. Some 5,000 work here amid gardens and weaving fountains fit for the palace grounds at Versailles. The fountain performances are programmed like a transfer machine. The ornamental lake covers 22 acres. It has been set with geometrically shaped islands strictly for aesthetic effect, and the islands have been set with orderly lines of willows. On the avenues in front of the research buildings, the trees are trimmed square, to prove perhaps that here man really is in control of nature. The coloured tiles that face the departmental buildings were fired in specially constructed kilns and came to the site in padded boxes with each one separately wrapped like a grade A egg. In this centre, the shapes, the guts, the trimmings and the colours of the General Motors products of the future are worked out in a campus-like atmosphere which, to quote their styling director, will provide a continuing series of cultural experiences. The Technical Centre is only one of 6, for each division from Cadillac to Chevrolet have their own research departments as well. The embryo creations of the Technical Centre are guarded like next season's Paris fashions or the ladies of the harem. But here is one room that we are permitted to see. Here they choose the colours for their cars of the future. Here the stylists select their ranges from a board which at one moment carries 4,200 different shades. And of course, there are lots of other samples in the cupboards. The stylists, with roof shrubberies growing around the windows, pick their fancy to the tranquil music of fountains running over coloured glass. Here, behind combination locked doors, the stylings for the 1966, 67 and 68 cars are already taking shape. For the astounding thing about the American way of making and selling cars is that every year a new model must be introduced, or at least one which looks new. In the car business, the package is the body of the car itself. So every autumn, the flowers of each division's engineering and designing skill are tossed into the dustbin and a new bunch are put on display. And somehow, the American designers have the knack of making nothing more obviously passé than the car of a few years ago. "1959 was the year of the tail fin, the jumbo tail fin. The manufacturers will tell you that in producing cars like these, they were giving the public what they were asking for. In fact, though, it was the designers who bought these monsters for. Something dreadful had happened in 1958. Car sales had slumped to the lowest figure in 10 years. People were actually hanging on to the cars they owned. This was a way of making last year's cars look old, even if it meant that this year's looked like flying jukeboxes. These are some of them, looking now cumbersome and ridiculous, yet none is more than 6 years old. But it worked. For 2 years, people bought the garish models, and then they began to see, as Detroit changed to more restrained styles once more, just how hideous were the cars they had bought. To change the style every year is an expensive business. It costs the industry around £400 million, or about £80 a car. But it does keep people buying. Though not, of course, without some pretty high-pressure selling. In the American car sales room, the customer is, outwardly anyway, king. The showrooms are equipped to keep his mind occupied whilst the terms of sale are drawn up. They have television and magazines and vases of flowers. And the car salesman is either successful or he starves. The customer belongs to him. He can make $5 profit or $500 on any car. It's up to him. To qualify for his salary of £90 or so a week, he has to show a weekly profit of £400. Whether he sells 4 cars or 40 is his business. His day-by-day performance is posted so that every man in the shop can see how the others are doing. Under this pressure, sometimes the dealings grow ugly. Some firms employ so many salesmen that they cut each other's throats by sharp practice, and the customers too by substituting cheaper accessories, by taking out radios, taking off the white-walled tires, and putting on cheaper quality plain ones, even by altering the figures on the purchase agreements. But they do sell cars, and the annual model change is something they look forward to like a birthday.
It's like the circus coming to town. All the kids are out there following the clowns and so forth. And people, when they come in to look at the car and the activity and so forth, the availability is a little short. And this induces people to buy, you know. When things are not available to you, this is what you want.
Pride of the General Motors fleet, and the choicest and most expensive car on this American market is the Cadillac. By Rolls-Royce and Bentley standards, the Cadillac is not an expensive car. The basic model sells at under £1,800. But it can be fitted with such a variety of extras that the price for a padded top limousine may be £4,600. Production is now running at $165,000 a year, and the firm's in the middle of a vast expansion program. The Cadillac is huge. It develops 350 horsepower, and the dashboard is a wonderland of buttons.
Mr. Collins, could you show me a few of the luxuries on this car?
Yes, we're in a 1964 Cadillac Sedan DeVille. Some of the equipment is located, the controls rather, for the equipment is located on the door. You have the window controls here in the door armrest, controls the windows. The seat control, forward and back, up and down and tilt is on the door.
Power operated, is it? You just press the button and you move?
Right, all power operated. The power door locks are located on the door. By pushing the button, you lock them, and pushing it up, they are unlocked.
Oh, I see.
The control of the side view mirror is on the inside of the car, so you don't have to reach out and adjust your mirror. Then a master control for the windows where you can lock them or open them in an emergency without the key being on are also located on the armrest part of the door. On the inside here, on the dashboard, we have the Twilight Sentinel.
What's the Twilight Sentinel?
This is a device that allows you to put a maximum delay of 90 seconds on your headlights after you've turned off your ignition switch. In other words, if you go home and drive into your driveway, you can shut off your car, your headlights will burn for 90 seconds, giving you time to get out of your garage and into your house, or if you live in an apartment, off the street and into the apartment. Another feature is the part of the Twilight Sentinel that will turn your headlights on at dusk and off at dawn. All automatic, you can adjust it and never have to worry about your headlights being on or off. Going into a tunnel or under a bridge, the same thing is true. Now we have another feature called the comfort control. That's the one here. By setting the lever on automatic and setting your temperature, the comfort control will maintain that temperature that is set on the inside of the car, summer or winter. In the winter, the heater will come on and maintain the temperature. In the summer, it'll be the air conditioning system. Or, if need be, in autumn or fall or spring, whichever one of the two is necessary to maintain that temperature will come on. The system itself is controlled by 3 thermistors, one of them located up here above the dash, one on the outlet duct and one on the inlet duct. And by the 3 working in conjunction with more or less a type of computer, they maintain that constant temperature. Another feature of the headlights is the automatic headlight dimmer, which is a photoelectric cell located in the front part of the left front fender, and the approaching car's headlights will automatically light the photoelectric cell and automatically dim your headlights from country driving to city driving.
Suppose you don't want to dim your headlights now.
Then you can override the automatic headlight dimmer by stepping on the floor switch. The car is equipped with power brakes and power steering, which are standard. You have a emergency brake, which is vacuum released so that you cannot drive the car with the emergency brake on. Radio in this car is an AM, FM radio. You can have either type of station tuned in, and it's done by push buttons. You set your push buttons to whatever stations you wish.
But even the Cadillac is not bought to love and to cherish for a motoring lifetime. The Cadillac, too, has a new style every year. Everybody, says the company advertising man, wants a Cadillac. But nobody wants a Cadillac to last forever. The Cadillac is the girl who has everything. Expensively made, expensively finished, expensive to buy and expensive to run. A girl with all the polish and all the trimmings. But who wants a girl like that when she grows old? After all, a new queen is born every autumn. It won't be long before, after having been hurriedly passed down the line of owners, jaded but still perhaps quite serviceable, she is abandoned somewhere and is taken with all the other deserted chariots to the police pound. If, that is, the police can find room for her. Abandoned cars are so numerous these days that the city pounds are jammed. The police in Detroit keep them for 90 days before offering them under the hammer to whoever will take them away. 6 years, 7 years, and the bright Miss Cadillac will be here, unglamorously stacked amongst all the other less ladylike cars, the Buicks and the Oldsmobiles, the Dodges and the Plymouths, the Lincolns and the Mercuries. Her theatre-going day is over, and quite forgotten by all the mink-coated passengers who rode in her so lately. Waiting for her last journey. It's not so long since she was prepared for her first, with painstaking tests and careful polish. The preparations for this journey are rather less careful. They attend to the wheels first, and then to the petrol tank. And then the shatterproof, splinterproof safety glass. They have a care for the bright door handles, too. And when that last journey begins, it is a short, hot, and very human journey. Eight years ago, this was the pride of the showroom, slowly circling in the very center of the window. The car that was new from bumper to bumper. The car which would give you a new high in motoring pleasure. Those engines so carefully designed by a $100,000 a year man, so carefully fashioned, bored, turned and drilled on a transfer machine costing £250,000, shaken out now like rotten teeth and thrown aside to add to a mountain of them. A 100 cars come to this one scrapyard every day, and it takes about 15 minutes to reduce them from a reasonably complete vehicle to a rectangular block of pressed steel the size of a suitcase.
Now, how many automobiles do you get coming in here in a day, Fred?
We get approximately 100 automobiles in a day.
And what do you have to pay for those?
We are presently paying for complete automobiles $8 to $10 a piece and picking them up with our towing vehicles.
Well, in English money, that's about £3 a piece you're paying. And how old are they?
These cars are anywhere from 7 to 10 years old.
What are the newest you get in?
We've had some models that are regarded as obsolescent, 1958 series in some brands.
So that's as recent as 6 or 7 years, and in that time they've come down from $3,000 or £1,000 or more down to a value of £3.
That's right.
Do you ever see this problem of the automobile, which I believe is now being left on the streets here in quite considerable quantities rather than being brought into the scrapyards? Do you ever see that problem becoming one where they'll have to pay you to fetch them in off the streets?
That's quite possible. If we have markets that slump and a period of low industrial activity and corresponding low prices for scrap, it's quite conceivable that people will have to pay to get rid of their old automobile, much as they have to pay for rubbish service right now.
For one half of the world, this is the process which has become the foundation of a way of life, whilst in the other, an empty petrol can is a cherished possession, and the child who finds an old tire can feed himself for 2 days. We may have dark forebodings about a day of reckoning. We may remember how grandmother used to feel about throwing away a crust of bread. But does it really matter, this acceptance that everything is expendable, consumable, renewable? Is it really destroying America, body or soul? Take the body first, the body of the nation which only 50 years ago was the most blessed on earth. Metals are running out. Of the 7 metals most needed in making steel alloys, only 2 can be fully supplied from home sources. Imports of high-quality iron ore have quadrupled within the last 10 years, and the American steel industry is kept going by Venezuelan ore. Oil is running out. At the present rate of consumption, the United States has only enough home-produced oil to last 13 years, and she is becoming more and more dependent on oil from South America and the Middle East. Soil and timber are disappearing. A third of the rich topsoil has been eroded away by improvident farming and washed down into the Gulf of Mexico. A half of the nation's standing timber has vanished, and it has been estimated that each man, woman and child in the United States consumes a ton of wood products a year. Even water is running out. The water supply is becoming a national problem, scarce in many areas and badly polluted by industrial waste in others. Still, there'll be new discoveries, new inventions, new processes, and probably, for as far ahead as we can see, the Earth will be able to meet the demands that man may make upon it. It may be a different story when the 1,000 million people of India and China begin to ask for as much of the Earth as the Americans and Western Europeans are asking now. When that happens, the world's resources will be disappearing at 7 times their present rate. But you don't need to look far into the future to see the dangers of the philosophy that nothing needs to last, that everything can and should be replaced. Search the face of this rich nation with all the know-how and all the ingenious tools for creating a great and noble land for its people to live in. And do you in fact find wondrous cities, the true successors to Rome and Paris and Athens, only made 1,000 times more marvelous by the miracles of modern science and technology? You do not. This is what you find. This is the new created America. Here's a private house, already abandoned and neglected. And then a jewelry store selling clocks and watches and rings. A cluster of cars parked outside a real estate office, probably the real estate office behind this housing development. 2 or 3 score of houses, probably, people who brought perhaps before the countryside was quite so messed about as it now is. But they don't complain. For in America, this is normal scenery. A shop selling plants and flowers and shrubs. Next door to another housing estate, spreading back from the highway, an extravagant piece of clapboard ribbon development. A barbecue shop selling hot dogs and roast chicken, and next door to a piece of hallowed ground, the Church of the Assembly of God.
And next to God, the garage, an acre of concrete liberally spread, for there is no need at all to economize. After all, the land was cheap, the highway grows busier every day. And then a crowded trailer park with some scores of families making their homes cheaply by the roadside, trailers that will never trail again. And another garage, the most frequent and least resented ornament of the American scene, the motor car's own refreshment next door to more hamburgers, vividly advertised. And next door to the hamburger stand, you might have guessed it, the bank. This is the way America grows, and in growing, destroys herself. Everything built to last only until they can afford to knock it down and buy a new one.
This is no isolated stretch of defiled country, specially chosen for its grotesqueness. This is the land the Americans are building to live in, building as fast as they know how. It's typical American scenery. You find it around Chicago, Los Angeles, Miami, New Orleans. Most Americans are not shocked by what has happened to God's own country. Rather, they're proud of it. This is all new, said one official of this Florida township. 10 years ago, there was only trees here. They actually prefer the billboards to the trees. This is it, the dwelling place of the richest and the most powerful people of the 20th century. These are their mansions, and these are their temples. And where amongst them does a soul find space to breathe? This is consumer land, where everything is devoted to the religion of the hard, quick sell, where each salesman's cry must be more strident than the last, where they sell hamburgers, justice, and the blood of the Lamb. Buy today and throw it away tomorrow, and buy some more on Sunday. This, in the end, is what more and more production means. The mammoth producers, their advertising men, and their salesmen have made the American into the biggest buyer and the biggest thrower away on earth. He lives amongst the idols of the wasteland, the gods of consumption and excretion, which can turn the heart of a nation into dust.